So finally, the book discusses the idea of totalitarianism and the one party and one truth ideology, and how it has manifested in these different times in the 19th, 20th century and in our time. And he also wants to talk about freedom as just an idea, Ethiopia, of an utopian idea, and not really able to be manifested in real life. And so the last chapters can put forward some thoughts for discussion and for revision. And so I choose to call it that freedom in the name of totalitarianism. So it's a kind of using freedom for totalitarian purposes, and it is not just about doing that in anti-democratic societies. It's also what easily can and possibly happens in what seems to be democratic societies, because as we will see, they can be built on nationalism, patriotism, or a kind of hidden racism. If it's not an open racism like the Nazist ideology, it's many times a hidden racism, the better race, the English race, the white race, the people of the chosen God, and all that. So it can be an ethnic or religious nationalism that's hiding, and racism hiding under the fans of freedom and liberty. And so it's actually a problematic chapter to look into, because, what does that leave us, and where does it leave us, and where is the hope, and where is the idea? We're back to Pandora's box, where back to the gods of the Greeks and Zeus, who were dissatisfied with Prometheus and the way he did with the meat and then with the fire, and gave it to the humans, and later he made this Pandora come to his brother, and with her she had a box of everything he desired, and so every catastrophe came out with that box, and in it stayed the last element, and that was hope. And that's a well-known story, that all kind of destruction and sufferings came out of that box of Pandora that was sent by Zeus to destroy humans and to make their life suffering, and hope stayed there in the box in the end. So where is that hope that we have to see in the end of the road? And is this book really giving us that hope and leaving a space for it? We're going to see some of that. And so basically in these chapters, he's looking into what is it that characterizes authoritarianism, and how does it go by making people adhere to its ideas and ideology. And he's talking about the very scaring prospect that has been seen in history and been documented by psychologists and sociologists, that totally ordinary people without any psychopathic or sociopathic traits, that's like any ordinary people with normal empathy and normal understanding of humans, they are willing to torture and persecute people in the name of the good and freedom, and in the name of the evil they are fighting. So the other people in modern times, we are not speaking Middle Ages, we're speaking our own time. And so the illusion of we being evolved from the Middle Ages is maybe it's more an illusion than a truth. And we having met the new times with new ideals that's being upheld, maybe it's not the whole truth either. This is my comment on this, but basically the book is giving some comments on the same issue, that what is it that makes people adhere to totalitarian ways and make them persecute and prison and torture people of another idea and background, all while the fans of liberty and freedom for the people and ideas of democracy and liberty is high in the sky. So what happens? What's that double standard and double way of dealing with things? And it basically goes back to dehumanizing the others. That's a basic trait in these totalitarian ideologies, as we're going to see. So basically, any ideology with totalitarian and closed-minded way of going about politics and humans, they want to make everything in the interest of their group or nation or tribe's interest. So anything they do is like said to be, well, this is in the interest of my nation, or in the interest of my group, or in the interest of my tribe, and we are the better. We are the race on the right track, or we have the right to defend our ethnicity and national coherence. And so it's a kind of hidden suppression and a good argument for why you go and suppress others and don't give them way to share with you or to be open to them. And so its characteristics are many, but I'll try to sum up, and he's talking about it in really many pages, but we can sum up that it is dehumanization of the other, like it happened with Hitler and the Jews and the other nations, like it happened in the Middle Ages, where people of Jewish and Muslim origins in Christian countries were put into special clothes and only had to walk several ways, and the Christians were free to maybe treat them in a way that is not equal to themselves, because, well, they didn't carry the truth and they didn't follow it. And that can go back to the Four Laterna Council in 1215, as mentioned in the history books, and we have it all the way up to modern times, that that dehumanization of groups you don't like or you think are evil and bringing evil to your society, that's a way into like making people do what they usually won't do. So this is one of the first traits of that. The second one is the strong state or leader. It can be a one party that's very strong and dominating and controlling every aspect of life. The second can be a man called a dictator or a tyrant or a person who is just fulfilling the destiny of his people and the truth and bringing it through. And so it is about using the power in order to promote a race or a nation or a tribe on behalf on the what can you say, while neglecting others. And many times in those cases we see the one party system or one group leading everything, and their idea, as it has been studied, is to transform people into masses that just cheer and follow and like what's going on, and they want that kind of strength underneath that one party system or that leader's vision and leadership. So it's about taking over power and truly showing that they have the strength to transform the individual into groups and the groups into masses. And by having people as masses, that makes it easy to work on teaching them the propaganda, teaching them the ideas they want them to learn, and they get into serving society as this leadership wants them to do. And some of the researchers have been identifying several traits in dictatorships, the syndromes of it, and they could see there were six main traits that always helped this dictatorship. It was an ideology, it was something that people could gather around, and a party or a small group that led everything and controlled everything and made people become a mass and a group with no individual opinion most of the time. And they were typically led by one strong man or woman. It was a charismatic or a strong person. And it has like a kind of police or a security force to ensure that people did not strike against it or oppose it or criticize it. And it had a kind of propaganda in communication. It has a monopoly that it could bring through its ideas without any opposition and without anyone doubting it. That makes it all easier and mainstream. And then it controlled power by controlling weapons and controlling the resources. And then it had a centrally run economy where people are actually not independent in their economy. I'm not saying they necessarily are communist, but they are not independent. They are dependent on centralized organs and institutions and places. So all these together form a dictatorship and form the totalitarian ideology. Another thing that Hannah Arendt has been talking about in her definition of totalitarianism, she says it's power political strategies that are very radical and has a general character that that is different from the classical authoritarian societies. So it's a stronger expression of power than has been seen before. And so, what happens to religion in these totalitarian states? Sometimes it is a state that rejects all religion or many religions and keep one as the truth. So if that religion can work together with that state and say that, well, you are the truth and you proclaim our ideas as the truth and we work together on that, maybe they're not saying it that way, but that's what's happening, then you can have the religion as the one source of truth that will guide people and put them together, and whatever picture of that religion is out among people will make it the only truth, and people cannot even in details oppose it or go against it, and they will be taken away or put in prison or persecuted or something else. And where they offer total different kind of ideas, that would be even harder for them. So the regulation of the individual and his and her beliefs, putting them into groups and saying, well, you are all under the protection and security of the state and you are free to be there, and you have to do what's necessarily for us to become glory and get our ideology through. And so neglecting or using religion at the same time, all these are traits of a very radical way of using people, manipulating people to believe in the state and in the persons that are leading them, that they are totally right and they shouldn't be opposed. And any criticism is like criticizing the very foundation of the idea. It can be the idea of freedom, it can be the idea of equality, it can be the idea of truth. No matter what idea is used there, it's all being used to say one thing: listen to us and let us rule and govern and do not protest. And that's how totalitarianism gets through to people. And so if people wake up under the way, they've already taken control of power so much that they can distort this protest or put people behind bars or use the power to ensure that there won't be these elements of change that they don't like. They want progression, of course, but they do not like and want any kind of change or disturbance in the ideas, and they do not want anyone to be aware of anything that's going on outside their way of life and way of looking at things. So it's a kind of taking patent over the truth, dehumanizing others, excluding criticals and critical voices, using everything, even the media, and using the institutions, all to govern and gain power and strengthen that power and centralizing it. So it's not only about a communist idea and the Stalinistic state. It's any kind of rule that centralizes power and gives themselves and the rulers more access to it, and they can use it while the people are on the outside, and they have just to follow and accept their place in society and serve that society and save that state, and they get more and more manipulated or build up the idea that they are defending their nation, or they are patriots, or they are these special religious people. They are the martyrs of the religion. They are the martyrs of truth. They are the carrier of the one true message to everyone during that time of this leader. He will be gaining more and more power, and if some of these people later wake up and say, hey, we've been fighting for this, but what have you been doing, taking over power and money and misusing it maybe, or just misusing your positions, or maybe it's not that at all, maybe it's just some of my friends do not totally agree what happened to them, they disappeared. It can be many things. So if people wakes up on their way, they already got so much power and so much one way of looking at things and making people understand that everything will be will be a danger and will be looked at as something that's undermining this build-up of the one idea and one truth, and so they they isolate the individuals, and they don't want the free critical thinking, and it's been seen as chaotic and leading to destructive ways in the face of that issue. And one of those who really tried to express this very literally and mentioned in this book is George Orwell, and we have later Aldous Huxley. And George Orwell had this a very famous novel called Animal Farm from 1945, and later he had the book 1984 from 1948. And in these two books, he's trying to rewrite his ideas on these totalitarian ways of misusing the ideas of liberty and giving up power to the one strong man and one strong party, and what's hiding behind it. And in Animal Farm, everyone should read this book, because it will be an eye-opener of many dimensions. It's a brilliant work of reflecting how things can go wrong when you accept to give up power because of the truth and because of the nation and because of the liberty you're fighting for. And we are back at the same idea we had in the beginning and the first part of this book, where we were looking at Athena, and the book we're looking back at the Roman state and looking how things developed there, and the philosophers that opposed it, that in the name of freedom you become suppressed and you lose your freedom, and you will have this giant monster that's actually controlling all bits of your life, or almost every bit of your life, without you knowing it, and you are a slave in that society and for the productions in it and the money, and many people can be in debt and they have to fight. They don't even know why they're fighting so far away from the nation, but they are told that this is the protection of freedom and we don't want these evil people coming and killing us, and so we have to do this. And maybe that's true to some extent from the perspective of that certain nation. They are fighting their enemies to uphold their society and their way of life. But what the book is trying to say is that putting things like up against each other very clearly in a way that nobody can avoid seeing it, maybe, that behind the true and realistic fight for your freedom, your nation, your place in life, your way of life, and your ideas, your religion, there can be this very great and dangerous misuse. And that's what Plato's idea, in my opinion, was all about. And Socrates, they shook their head and they tried to make people aware that that the basic notion of freedom can be used for tyranny, just as the basic notion of succumbing to one idea can be the basis for tyranny. And that's what this is trying to sum up in many ways. And furthermore, two very important notion on totalitarianism is the idea of exclusion and racism. Racism had become a very big ideology in modern times, but it has always existed more in tribal ways. It's like the tribe, and the tribe looked much like each other. And later, when the science was trying to find out people's origins and could see different races with different colors and different skull types and body shapes, and later DNA, they started like, really, okay, there are some races who are maybe more beautiful or more chosen or stronger. And typically they just said, well, the white race are the beautiful ones, the blue eyes, and the people in Africa are the ones standing lower because they look more like undeveloped people. And if you look at the Africans, you can see the traits they put into the Europeans. They have the strength, they have the cleverness, they have the bodies, they have the height. And so maybe they should have been the Aryan race instead of the Aryans, because there are so much Mongolism and stupidity and troublesome issues with these blue-eyed and white-haired people that it doesn't make sense to say we who are born like this and are the healthiest and closest to God and the most chosen race. It just falls apart. It's a false God and a false way, but people believed it and followed it. And today maybe it's an opposite racism. It's the the black people against everyone else, or the Asians against everyone else, and they want to put the other nations underneath them. So it's that ongoing fight of using ideas and ideologies for such kind of exclusion, and putting people in a kind of system and layers. And so the world will make sense. And maybe that's how things just are. This is just my comment on everything I've been reading in this book. That okay, to control a big society with many people, you have to control the individual and the individual's thought, and you have to have an enemy. You have to dehumanize that everyone who is a threat to you. You have to control the masses, and you have to have power and people to protect that power, and money and resources to do so. So you have to centralize all of the stuff, and just the way the world will run. Because if you keep everything open and fragmented and decentralized, well, at one point or another, some group of those free, decentralized, non-centralistic, non-manipulated people, they will rise up to take over and take power, and they will become the dominating force. And do we really want that? Do we want somebody else to be the dominating force? So why not just go from the beginning and take that power and hold it, and keep holding it until in my opinion, until it crashes. And many times it crashes pretty quickly, because the ways of manipulating the people just cannot uphold. When you are saying to the people, here you are free, and you are the better nation, and you are the more developed people, and you have the only and one truth, this will with time falter and go wrong, because we know what happens from time to time. And that's why maybe Plato is right about this cosmic cyclus of history, that it repeats itself, but it just in new fashions. It's not linear. We are not just developing. We sometimes repeat history, and we repeat the mistakes, and we repeat going bad and corrupt, and then things are put into order again by the destruction of that empire, or a destruction of that culture that has gone too far and too wild. Otherwise, where are these people that were before us, and why aren't we much better? And that's some of the things I can read in this book, that it's not a book that's praising freedom, neither righteousness. It's just saying, well, they can all be used. That's my interpretation, but they can be used for totalitarian purposes. So is it really all an utopia? That's what we're going to see in the last chapter, where, of course, this is mixed with some of my way of saying it and my opinion on it, but mostly it's true to what Rune is being putting forward in the book. But we're going to see, is this maybe just an utopia, or difficult to live with? And let me finish with Karl Popper and his way of seeing all these things. In his book, The Open Society and its Enemies, he's going through three types of ideologies and ideas. The first one, the Marxism and Hegelianism and Plato's philosophy, and seeing how they are closed societies, closed entities, and he wants the open society. And he sometimes can see that there are a striking resemblance between these pre-modern ideas from all times and the way they are manifested in today. It's like somebody have been looking in these books and putting them into practice, and he see very many of the characteristic and like the disciplining of people, the indoctrinations in school, the censorship, the spiritual guidance, and different way of organizing people is just being put into notion in many totalitarian forms today. Add to that the suppression and persecution and dehumanization I've been talking about, and the same way with the ideas of liberty, they are being put into some kind of anti-totalitarian, half chaotic, half disorganized ways that just doesn't make sense either on the other side, or maybe it's an ideal that's maybe not working in reality, and crashes very soon on the big waves of power and control and the lust for taking over.